So the story that I want to tell you is how the Grinches stole conservation. Every Nerks around Nerksville liked the land a lot, but Grinches were abound that apparently did not. Who wouldn't want resources conserved with wise use? Well, those whose sights were set on goals more obtuse. Maybe their heads weren't screwed on just right, or could it be maybe their wallets were too tight? But maybe the most likely reason of all may have been that their ethics were a size or too small. The Grinches, they gathered in a small town beer joint to halt conservation, for that was their point. One Grinch, he sought to distract the field Nerks, to fill their days with tasks so berserk. They're out pushing no-till, a Grinch said with a frown. It must be because the network is down. If they were online, the time that it kills, folks could be out disking the hills. The more time they spend with numbers and rustle, the less time they'd have for the hassle and hustle of cover crops pushed to the brink. The hype of these cocktails you can't even drink. Another Grinch noted, arrange for more meetings or toolkit trainings. They endure such a beating. Or if they're away at a meeting or training, the more chance there is to go about draining. These buffalo wallows that only get wet after it rains. It's where the water sets. But wait, said a third Grinch, that plan may backfire. After hours progress will often transpire. If it's held at a Holiday Inn Express, they all share ideas to clean up the mess. Free beer and chips serves to inspire the Nerks. And some plans are formed, some that might work. Let's drive down to Lincoln, to the state office hub. We'll cause a big ruckus and start such a rub. Their lives are so cushy, they can't take the heat. They come to the office all dressed up and neat. Most don't even know they work for the land to keep it intact and looking so grand. They say that the big wheels do not have a view. They sit inside four walls with a picture or two.
Not true.
Of a critter or a landscape to give them a notion of the resources they love with so much emotion. They piled in a truck, to Lincoln they traveled, to halt conservation and make it unravel. The small band of Grinches drove fast and weren't tardy, arriving in time for the holiday party. The state office Nerks were all gathered round to eat up the pizza and sweets by the pound. At first glance, it looked as their task would be quick. These people weren't leaders. They're dense as a brick. As the Grinches were huddled in the back of the line, one Grinch retorted, I can't see a sign of the so-called land ethic these folks talk about. Resource conservation, they taunt and they tout. As they looked around the room, they started to judge the staff here and there, as if holding a grudge. Those three over there divide up the state. More area staff would really be great. Parks, engineers, program specialists too. If they each had one more, just think what they could do. There's more. There's two that are Doug's, and the third one, who knows? But little by little, their turf, it does grow. No north nor south, rather east, central, west. Now they just argue which area is the best. Over there, engineer staff crowd round two tables, discussing projects as follies and fables. Watershed rehab, it's not what you think. Not a place to reform if you've had too much to drink. Instead, it just pads the federal payroll like stuffing our money down a rat hole. The Grinches, they heard the engineers talk, and soon one Grinch said, as he started to mock, does water run downhill, or does it run up? They lively debate with their full coffee cups. One to design it, another to check, a third engineer to revise. What the heck? They scanned the room for administration. Not sure who'd they find. There's been transformation. That crew lady's now an assistant state con, but forming the team seems to drag on. Well, it must be a game, because there are teams. And some have a mascot, or so it does seem. I've heard there are tigers, but how about the bears? There's none named the Huskers, so no one would dare. The Grinches, they looked for the disciples of soil. They dig up a profile. They labor and toil. But they are so fractured into each MLRA, and their leader is off to some training, they say. It's the year of the soil. So what? Throw a party! One Grinch did yell out with laughter so hearty. Now the program staff has shuffled around. Epperson, Grigg, and Girac left town. It started with Kelty, for she'd had enough. The ones that remained, they try to act tough. Torpin's out golfing or shopping for thrift. John keeps claiming his program's a gift. And Wilbur's on board, he's starting to run. But it's basketball season, he's off having fun. Brad tries to direct them to fund conservation. But these programs have got a loose reputation. A ramp and a tank, one more cross fence, cover crops payout in dollars and cents. The only thing now that stands in the way of us getting the money the program will pay is one of the new staff with a fine-toothed comb. You can bet they will call you on your cell phone. Just tell them the papers are signed in the mail. The mod is required, or the practice will fail. The resources staff, no, now wait, it's ES. Ecological sciences, I guess. It seems Sarah Gray just joined them. That's new. Before that, they'd shrunk to only a few. She's got fresh ideas to bring to the table, but we'll beat her down before she is able to alter the culture, to make people care, and tend the resources, to do their fair share. A Grinch nudged his buddy and suddenly blurts, "Do you really think that they are experts?" The one tending water was boss for a while. Is she even aware what runs from our tile? Or is she just planning the next big food day? It has been requested, or so she will say. Their bellies are so full they often suffer, too sleepy and lazy to design a buffer. The agronomy man now says, soil health, as if it's of value or offers us wealth. How about he just focus on increasing yields and boosting production from marginal fields? The grazing land specialist now talks about burns. Is nutball really a technical term? And so what if cedars overtake grass? The ones in my crop field are the pain in the... The one who searches for old barns in Flint don't understand and can't take a hint. The progress must happen despite that old crap, even if it's yellow on some secret map. The wetland appeals, they stack up for Vaughn. We'd argue the boundary and where it was drawn. Then hire a lawyer to claim self-defense. It had to be drained. It's just common sense. And now there's a bat, so recently listed, so-called endangered, but that story is twisted. The white in its nose is caused by a cold. It halts every project, or so I am told. The one for the wildlife now works with the trees and claims he needs training on the birds and the bees. He's sort of a coyote. He takes after critters, stashing and hoarding donuts and fritters. And so he's distracted with primal instinct. If he misses a snack, he can't even think. And their boss, he is recent, just started, new. And just like their old boss, he can also brew. To make him lose focus, just ask about ale. Or stout, yeast, or hops, it'll never fail. Just a few staff were left for the Grinches to slander. They finished them off talking with candor. There's even a lady who twitters and tweets, putting out stories about people she meets. Things about farmers and ranchers who care, about resources they manage and willing to share. One Grinch said aloud, I've read a few lines and read a whole story, I'll admit, a few times. The leader of Nerksville, he started to speak about making efficiencies to make the Nerks sleek. More time in the field and less in the seat. All the farmers and ranchers we need to go meet. The Grinches, they heard this, and one said, whatever, that day will never happen, probably never. Sure, the stories abound from back in the day. The Nerks were then helpful, my grandpa would say. But then things were different. Conservation was grand. But now, we can't afford to take care of the land. Just then, a new face did enter the room with a spirit so cheery and not with much gloom. A young girl, some knew as Sandy Lou Nerks. She joined the Earth team to see how it works. You see, she's in college to learn conservation. Natural resources is her advocation. Sandy grew up on a small dairy farm among the dry hills with nostalgic charm. She sat down with the Grinches at one open seat, for she always looked for new people to meet. One Grinch said gruffly, "So now, who are you?" To which she responded, "I am Sandy Lou." They talked and they chatted. She relayed her tale of coming to Lincoln, a plan that can't fail. "So who are your parents and where's your hometown?" "You probably don't know them. They live farther down, the river from you folks, the place you might know, where green plants stick up from out of the snow. Our farm, it is small, but somewhat unique compared to our neighbors whose fields look so bleak. We plant a cover in the fields in the fall, as my grandpa has done since I was this tall." And Sandy continued to describe their farm, where the steep slopes are pasture to keep them from harm. She told of the wetland they restored in the draw, where runoff will flow through the spring thaw. Her and her dad went there to shoot ducks, and their trail cam did capture a really big buck. As she spoke, the Grinches were starting to think of the ill deeds they'd done to the water they drink. One Grinch said, "My grandfather farmed that same way. I remember the quail on opening day." And another one said, I think you're right. I heard there's a workshop next Tuesday night on the CRP program and how to enroll a patch of wild flowers on an eroded knoll. I think we should go. What say all you guys? Let's choose conservation and try it on for size." So as the party proceeded, the Grinches stayed late to mingle with the Nerks as if it were fate. For soon they discovered they all had the same plan: to care for the earth, to help people, help the land.